welcome to another Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. This is the show devoted exclusively to St. Mary's University and its athletic programs. I'm Dean Beckman, joined by Donnie Netto, the Sports Information Director for the Cardinals. And Donnie, we're coming off of an Easter weekend, so not a lot of activities from this past week to talk about. We'll get to some baseball and softball games and some very good ones that were played on campus recently. But before we do that, and also later on in the interview segment, we should mention that Jase Pater will be our guest. Jase is a cross-country runner, a track and field athlete, both indoor and outdoor seasons, and he's also organizing an upcoming benefit for one of our coaches at St. Mary. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. And one of our softball players, Mariah Harper, will be in our student athlete spotlight coming up later on. But before we get to all of that, Donnie, next week is Division III, NCAA Division III week, and so it's kind of a week to honor all of the NCAA Division III athletes and coaches.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat idea that the NCAA came up with about 4 years ago, and really it's to just kind of bring some attention to Division III and all of the outstanding athletes that we have, and a lot of the great things that they do. And I think bringing Jase on is a perfect example in that you mentioned he's a cross country athlete and a track and field athlete, and you look at all the other things that he's doing along with that, and the Jogging for Jack 5K is another one of those things that our student athletes are incredibly talented individuals, and it's not just on the court or on the diamond or any of the athletic venues, but also what they do in the classroom and what they do outside of the classroom. And I think that that's kind of what Division III week is all about, is let's let people know that these are outstanding student athletes, and they take the student portion of that as importantly as they do the athlete part of that. And I think that really is what makes a St. Mary's student athlete so special, is what they do along with their outstanding abilities and accomplishments on the field of competition.
And what I appreciate too is the fact that St. Mary's really embraces and promotes Division III week. Because every day of the week next week there are different activities lined up to recognize student athletes and coaches. So for instance, the Student Athletic Advisory Committee on Monday, they're going to host a luncheon for faculty and staff, just so the faculty and staff, which is already very supportive of the student athletes, they get to know a little bit more what it's like to live the student athlete life. That's on Monday. And then on Wednesday there'll be another luncheon for a lot of the award winners, so like the all-conference athletes and a lot of those who have won awards from this past year. So a lot of activities really to recognize those student athletes who, as you said, put in so much time and effort.
Absolutely, and I think that the one that I really like about that, and you had mentioned it, is that Monday luncheon for the faculty and staff. So many of our faculty are take a strong hold on their student athletes, especially those that they have in class. And you can probably speak to that yourself, being a faculty member. But I think it's really a neat opportunity for people to just kind of get together, meet some of our student athletes, and maybe just talk a little bit about what it's like to have to juggle your curriculum with a very demanding athletic life as well. And I think that it's really a great opportunity for our faculty and staff to just kind of sit down and talk to our student athletes and like you said, get to know them a little bit. You know them in class. What do they like outside of class, and what is it like to be a student athlete? And I think that that's going to be a real neat luncheon and an opportunity for our faculty and staff to kind of get together with our student athletes.
And some things we can touch on with Jase Pater in a little bit as well. But before we get to Jase, some of the activities this past week in St. Mary's athletics, and Donnie, the softball team went up against the number 7 team in the country on Tuesday and played a couple of really close games, even though both were losses.
Yeah, no question. You look at, I feel a little bad for Coach Miller scheduling Luther as their first outdoor game after their, they had their spring break, and then they had the 4 games in the Dome, been off for about 3 weeks, and played on Tuesday against a phenomenal team in Luther. Luther's came into the 2 games 19-1, had won 13 in a row, so obviously deserving of their number 7 ranking. And I thought that the Cardinals did a nice job of staying with them. They lost the first game 5-1, and then the second game 4-1, and Offensively, you got to tip your caps to Ashley Betzold. She was 3 for 4 in the first game, and Mariah Harper, our student athlete spotlight, she was 2 for 2 in the second game with a home run. I had to look back. I did not realize that was her first collegiate home run. Wow. So Mariah, congratulations on that first home run. Unfortunately, those two really produced most of the offense for the Cardinals. The two of them combined for 5 of the 7 hits that we had against Luther, and so a tough 2 losses, but I think really showed that this St. Mary's team is for real, and they can play with the best of them. We'll get another great opportunity to see how good they are against some of the nation's best on Saturday when we play St. Kate's. St. Kate's is 18th in the country right now, 13-0 on the season, so another huge test. I'm not sure Coach Miller expected the beginning of her schedule to really be as tough as it has turned out to be, but another big test on Saturday for them. Yeah,
the final scores in those Luther games, 5-1 and 4-1, and I'm sure Luther was accustomed to much bigger wins than that, so Absolutely. The Cardinals gave them a good run. And I think talking to some of the players afterwards, I think Coach Miller wanted to see a little better defensive effort from St. Mary's. However, again, stressing that it was at least a non-conference game, so it's something to learn from and take into the St. Kate's contest.
Absolutely, and it was it's a good building block, and you hate to always try and find a silver lining, but you're right. You take a team like Luther and you try to build from it, and you can take a lot of good things out of that those 2 losses, but in the same respect, there's a lot of learning experiences, and like you said, defensively they need to be better, they need to be sharper, and when you're playing against the best, you need to be at your best, and I think that offensively and defensively there were some times that they certainly could have used a little better effort. They didn't come up with the clutch hits when they needed them, and defensively they didn't make some plays that they need to. Right. But again, it's early. Hard to say that when you're 12-5, 17 games into your season, but it's early, and there's a lot of softball yet to be played.
And you mentioned we'll have Mariah Harper on the Student Athlete Spotlight at the end of today's program. But what she's doing offensively is phenomenal. It's still early in the season, but she's batting .579. She has a slugging percentage of .921 and an on-base percentage of .628.
Yeah, when you have 22 hits and 6 of them are doubles and 2 of them are triples and a home run, your slugging percentage is going to be up there. And she has had. It's great to see her have a phenomenal senior year like this. And I know, back when we had Coach Miller on the show, we talked about the fact that I think that she's very comfortable in that number 9 spot in the batting order, and I think that that's really helping her out. It's allowing her to be at really a second leadoff hitter for them, and she's not. The first 3 years she was really predominantly a slap hitter, and right now she's taking her hacks, and I don't think they're going to have her slapping anytime soon, because she is just having a phenomenal season. And Ashley Betzold is having a great year too. Not only offensively, she's hitting .379, but in the pitching circle as well. I mean, she is logging just a ton of innings, pitching very well. She's got a microscopic 1.2, I believe it is.
1.24.
Yeah, 1.24 ERA. So she's having a great season as well, and those two are going to need to continue to do that, and the rest of the team is going to continue to produce. And I think that we're going to be talking about this softball team and their successes far more than we are going to be talking about their deficiencies.
All right, an equally tough stretch right now for the baseball team. As we record this, they're playing the University of Minnesota in the Gophers' home opener, weather permitting. And then yesterday they took on the University of Wisconsin lacrosse, a really good team as well. Lost that doubleheader 9-2. 8-1, and I know the baseball team has some tough matchups coming up after the Gophers even.
No question. And I talked to Coach Winicky on Tuesday after that doubleheader loss, and he was very disappointed. He didn't think that they played very well at all, and I think that as we talked with the women, he made the comment that this is a good wake-up call for them. They had really had a lot of success early in the season, and I think that something like this can kind of bring you back down to earth and keep you grounded a little bit. And lacrosse, they were 6-4 coming in, but ranked 18th in the country, so they certainly were better than just a 6-4 record. A very good team. They swung the bats very well, and you have to tip their caps to them. They played very well. St. Mary's, on the other hand, a lot of missed opportunities in that first game. put a lot of runners on base, but could not get couldn't string a couple of hits together when they needed to. And unfortunately, when that happens, you come out on the short end. You give up 4 runs in the first 2 innings against a team like that in the first game. That's tough to come back from. And so hopefully they learn something from that. Hopefully on Wednesday up at the Gophers, they get to have a little bit of fun. I can't imagine being able to play a Division I team on their home turf. It's just got to be a great opportunity for these guys. And, as much as it will be fun, I know Coach Winicky, and I know that this is definitely, as he would say, this is a business trip, and they're out there to play the Gophers and play as well as they can play. So I think it's a really neat opportunity to be able to square off against a Division I program like that. But hopefully they'll play well, win or lose, play well, and get ready for St. Thomas on Saturday.
All right. One particular bright spot for the Cardinals in that doubleheader in the first game against La Crosse, Cale Paczynski, 3 for 3, so he was perfect in that first game. All right, stay tuned here to the Cardinals Nest. When we come back, we'll bring in Jase Pater and tell you more about a big benefit 5K coming up at St. Mary's here on HBC.
Want the latest news on St. Mary's University athletics? Watch the Cardinals Nest on HBC TV 25. Dean Beckman and SMU Sports Information Director Donnie Netto will talk about the past week in Cardinal athletics, highlighting the best in each Cardinal sports team. Player and coach guests will add their stories and insight each week with new shows Thursdays at 5 p.m. and replays Fridays at 6:30 p.m. and Saturdays at 7:30 a.m. on HBC TV 25.
And welcome back to the Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. Glad you could join us, Dean Beckman, Donnie Netto. And joining us now is Jase Pater. Jase is with the cross-country team, track and field team at St. Mary's University. Jase is also the organizer for the upcoming Jogging for Jack Superhero 5K. Jase is organizing that partly as a class project, but partly too just to help out the coach's son that this benefits. So we'll get to all of that in just a little bit. But Jase, before we talk about the 5K that you're organizing, tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, how you got started in running, both cross-country and track, and then how you ended up at St. Mary's.
Okay. Well, I'm from Adrian, Minnesota. It's a very small town in southwest Minnesota. Mm-hmm. I started running basically because my brother is 2 years older than me, and he ran both cross-country and track. And my dad was actually the assistant coach, cross-country coach at Adrian. So I just kind of followed in their footsteps, and they showed me the way. And then for the event, I guess I was looking for something to do. I really had a lot of options, but I didn't know which way I wanted to go with it. So I reached out to a faculty member, Nikki Richmond, and I thought maybe she would have an idea for me to do a fundraiser event. And one of the coaches actually reached out to her to help put on this event. Mm-hmm. So she was really the reason why I got involved with the Cassidy family to put this on for them.
Yeah, so we should mention now this is for Neil Cassidy. He's the head women's soccer coach at St. Mary's, and for his son, 2-year-old Jack, who's been diagnosed with LCH. I'm going to give this a shot, Donnie. Langerhans cell histiocytosis is what LCH stands for. And basically it was started out as kind of a tumor on the jaw and then was diagnosed as this LCH. So the Superhero 5K is going to be benefiting that. If you could, Jase, tell us a little bit more about why the superhero theme, when this event is, and how people can either register to race in the 5K, or if they can't race that particular day, donate to the cause.
Mm-hmm. Well, we went with the superhero themed because when Jack was in the hospital, a lot of his Neil's friends, their family friends, referred to him as Super Jack because of everything that he was going through. He was very much like a superhero going through it. And a lot of the Cassidy family's friends wore shirts that had the Superman logo with the J on it for Jack. So that had already been established for the family, so we thought we'd just go with it. The event is on April 10th. It's a Sunday at 2 p.m. You can register at smumn.edu/joggingforjack. We also have a Facebook page. If you just type in Jogging for Jack, you can get the link from there as well to get registered.
And it seems like, it seems like a lot of people have already kind of hopped on board to help support this. And talk a little bit about the importance of doing something like this. I mean, it seems like the St. Mary's community is always looking for ways to help their own. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I've had a lot of people actually come up to me and ask me how they can help and how they can donate their time, donate their money. So really, St. Mary's has really been backing me, helping the Cassidy family. So it is like a very close-knit community that we're all in this together, and we're willing to help those of our faculty members.
So if somebody, go ahead.
Just a second. You've run in a lot of races, I'm sure, and a lot of 5Ks. Talk a little bit about what it's been like to be on the other end of it, to be the one organizing it, because this is a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's very different being on the other side of it. I have done a lot of road races, and each of them are different, so they all bring something different. So I've had basically do whatever you want with it, but it is very difficult to actually get everything lined up, get sponsors, get the registration, and get the word out there about this event. So it has been much more difficult than I thought it would be.
So if somebody goes to the website to register, it's $15 to participate in the event, or you can donate any amount of money to either participate or just donate to the cause. But we should point out that this 5K is sort of a recreational one.
Yeah.
Like if Donnie and I register, we don't have to race against you, right, Jase? Okay, it's sort of a run-walk event and just intended for fun, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's just in a neighborhood behind St. Mary's. Try to get it out of the bluff so it's not too hilly for everybody, but it is just a leisurely fundraiser for the Neil Cassidy family.
All right, good. So, Jase, now that we've told everyone about the Superhero 5K, April 10th again, and you can go to the St. Mary's website to register for that event. Tell us more about your athletic career at St. Mary's. You're a senior now. You're getting set to graduate. So, kind of reflect for us. Let's start with cross country. You've had a very successful cross country career. What's it been like racing at the Division III level?
It's been a lot of fun. It's a lot different than what I'm used to. Like I said, I'm from a small town. So when I graduated, there were 2 men on the team. I was one of them. So going to a team where there's actually, my freshman year, there's maybe 15 of us. So that was a lot of fun having a big team and a lot of other guys on it. So it's been fun. It's been a roller coaster for me, a lot of ups and downs. I've struggled with injuries through the year, but with everything I've enjoyed.
Well, anyone who runs the trails at St. Mary's, there's a lot of ups and downs. Right?
Yeah, talk a little bit about that. As you had mentioned, you came from a small town. When you get to St. Mary's and you've got the bluffs that we have and the courses that you guys run, that's something you probably have never experienced before.
No, yeah, the St. Mary's course is very difficult. It's very flat over in southwest Minnesota, so I'm not used to the bluffs, the hills. So it was reality check for our first home meet especially, but gotten used to it over the years.
Now, when you came to St. Mary's, were you recruited for track or cross country, or were you sort of a walk-on cross country runner?
I guess you could say recruited. I contacted Ward. We were in communication, but when I first came, I just wanted to check out the school. I didn't really want the sports side of it to come into factor, but when I got here right away in the visit, I think I met with Ward, so it kind of defeated that purpose.
Now, if I asked Dean this question, there would be some silly answer, but I'm going to ask you if you can kind of explain the biggest difference between running cross country and running track and field, and don't say one is on the track and one is on the trail. But there, talk a little bit about the differences and how it, in the similarities that help you in the running part of it, but the differences in having to run like a 3,000 or a 5K compared to running cross country.
Yeah, a lot of the difference for me is the number of people in the races. For track, especially in the 3K or 5K, there's a lot less people. So that's one of the biggest differences, other than running in a circle for 15 or 25 times. But just the level of competition, it's a lot higher there, especially because the field is so thin that you don't get as many people as the other.
And do you? I know they have a counter, but do you count in your head as you're going around each time?
No, I try to just focus on the race. If you count every lap, it gets a lot longer than what it actually is.
So earlier, Jase, Donnie and I were talking about Division III week, which is next week. What's life like for a student athlete? I mean, being in both cross country and track, you're a student athlete year-round because you go from cross country and pretty much immediately start indoor track, and from indoor track you go right to outdoor track. So what's that like being an athlete year-round at the Division III level? Granted, it's not quite as intense as it might be at Division I, but I would imagine you have to excel in time management skills.
Yeah,
right?
it was a hard adjustment at first, but once you get into the swing of it, in the routine, especially being a year-round athlete. Not very many of our other athletes on campus do that. So it is a hard adjustment at first, but you get used to it. You get used to time management and your busyness. You just schedule things in the evening after practice or in the day between classes.
What takes a hit? I mean, you're, besides being a student athlete, you're also the president of the Public Relations Business Club on campus, so you're very busy. I'm sure there's other activities you're involved in as well. What takes a hit? Is it the social life, or how do you balance all
Yeah,
that?
the social life definitely takes a hit. Sleep also is a big one that takes a hit. But you just really got to balance. The weekends are key, especially Sundays. For us, when in cross country, I guess track too, our meets are on Saturdays. So we don't have a lot of off time. Cross country is nice because it is every other weekend for meets, but Saturdays in track is every Saturday. So that's a really hard one to get focused and get the time management down.
So what's your major? What do you hope to do after you graduate here in May?
I'm a double major with human resources and entrepreneurship and a minor in electronic publishing. I don't really know what I want to do after graduation. I have a month to go.
Sleep. That would be one thing.
Hopefully a human resources position, a recruiter is what I'm trying to go for.
All right, good. And so now we just got a few minutes left. Maybe give us a preview of the upcoming outdoor track and field season here.
Yeah, we have our first home meet this weekend, which this is a new one for us. We haven't had this meet. So that's exciting. Next weekend we go to lacrosse, and lacrosse ones are always big meets with really good competition. But all around, we had a pretty good indoor season, a little disappointed at conference, but I think we're ready to come back and show the rest of the conference what we have to offer.
And the weatherman says it's going to be really nice on Saturdays.
Yeah, I hope he's wrong and it actually is nice.
Jase, I was just going to say, you know, we talk about all of the things that you do, you know, student athlete and whatnot, but one of the other things that you like is photography. And we're just recently won an award for a photo you took. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I studied abroad in Italy for a month this summer, and while I was there, I was on the social media team, so I got a scholarship for that. And then the school was doing a contest for the best photography for a study abroad trip. So I was like, why not just enter? So I entered a couple. I don't lose anything if I enter it. And then yesterday I got the email saying that I won, so that was kind of cool.
It was a beautiful picture. I wish I had it with me. It was a very beautiful picture.
But Jase, related to that, your study abroad experience, how has going to St. Mary's, do you think, benefited you from that academic side of thing, allowing you to do the athlete and all of these other opportunities?
Yeah, well, St. Mary's really benefited me for the academics. The study abroad was a little tricky being a year-round athlete, and I did want to do that. So finding a way to do it in the summer and St. Mary's being able to help me find a study abroad trip to go to in the summer was really beneficial.
So as you look back now on your high school cross-country career and now coming to college, and now you're a senior, you've had some time to reflect. What advice do you have for maybe high school juniors or seniors who are thinking about being a student athlete in college?
Just go for it. Give it a try. A lot of people say that they're too worried about the time management and they're not going to be able to do it. But if you don't try, you don't know. So I think as long as you give it a shot and do your best, that's all you can ask.
All right. So again, we've got the Jogging for Jack Superhero 5K. It'll be on the St. Mary's campus on April 10th. And Jase is organizing that event. It's for Neil Cassidy, his family, his son, who's been diagnosed with LCH. And so all of the money raised will go toward the Cassidy family. And so one more time, Jase, how do people register or donate to that cause?
They can register at smumn.edu/joggingforjack. On there you are able to register, and then there's a little spot where you can put in a donation as well.
All right, so Jase Pater, thanks so much for being on the show, and good luck here as you wind down your collegiate career.
Thank you.
All right, stay tuned. Donnie and I will be back with the Student Athlete Spotlight. That's next here on the Cardinals Nest on HBC.
We chose HBC because they're a local company. They have a big audience in Winona, which is the geographic group that we're looking for. Mel is very easy to work with. She's genuinely concerned about how our money is being spent, and she does everything she can to make sure we get the most for our money. She takes care of us. So whenever there's a problem, which is rarely, I know that I can go to her and she's going to take care of it.
To see how HBC Advertising can help your company, call Melanie at 507-474-5802.
And we're back to wrap things up here on the Cardinals Nest on HBC. Dean Beckman and Donnie Netto. And Donnie, what can you tell us about the track and field meet, the opener for St. Mary's, weather permitting? Right?
It's going to be cold. How's that? I know I talked to Niels Anderson, and he's very excited about this meet. As Jase had alluded to, this is a new meet for St. Mary's, and that we've never had one this early at home. So it'll be nice. And I know that our athletes love to run on that track, and they love to compete in front of their home crowds. So it'll be an exciting day for them. Again, weather permitting, the Mother Nature doesn't look very good right now. But there's a lot of going on this weekend. We talked about the baseball and the softball, and we've got the home track meet, and we've also got both tennis teams are playing against Bethel on Saturday at home at the Winona Tennis Center, and then the women's tennis team heads to Wisconsin. They've got a couple of non-conference matches on Sunday, so it's definitely a busy weekend as we kick into April, and the spring sports are definitely in full swing.
Absolutely. And now St. Mary's University student and HBC's very own Ricky Palermo puts the softball player Mariah Harper in our student athlete spotlight. Thanks for watching the Cardinals Nest here on HBC.
In creating this interview with Mariah Harper, we experienced some technical difficulties, but don't worry, we prevailed. And now, without further ado, one of the seniors for the St. Mary's softball team, Mariah Harper. So, we're here with Mariah Harper for the third time. Okay, so Mariah, where are you from? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a senior. I'm from Schaumburg, Illinois, and I'm a life science education major.
So how is that going? You're in your final year, so you've been student teaching.
Right, yeah, so I've been student teaching. I first started off at the Winona Senior High School, and I taught human anatomy. And then I moved to Winona Middle School, and now I'm teaching 8th grade earth science.
Okay, so you're all over the board.
Right, yeah.
How is that with your studies? Is that hard to teach or student teach and then come back to school and the traveling?
It's a lot different, yeah. But we only take a few night classes, so it's not that different. It's hard to balance everything, yeah. But it's okay, I'll make it through.
Yeah, so what brought you to St. Mary's in good old Winona?
Well, I'm from a really big town. Schaumburg's pretty big. So I just really like the small town aspect of everything and just kind of taking everything slow. But then I also got recruited for softball as well, so that was a big plus. Nice. We're doing pretty well, I would say so.
Yeah, and so talk a little bit about your softball journey. Now you started playing second base in the infield, but now you moved to the outfield. So how's that helping out?
I'm really glad that they moved me into the outfield. I feel more at home there.
Yeah, well, and it's showing. You hit 6'11" the other week in Florida, and you were named MIAC Athlete of the Week. So how exciting was that?
That was pretty awesome. I've never won anything like this before, so it's pretty unbelievable.
Big accomplishment for you. And what about the team? How's the team been doing thus far? Because you had a successful Florida trip, and now you're working hard preparing for your next game, April or March 30th. Right?
Yeah, I think our team is doing really well, adjusting pretty well to everything.
And you got some freshmen this year that are helping out as well.
Yeah, so we have some freshmen that have pretty good talent.
Now, this year's different because you lost your assistant coach that you've had for the last 3 years. But now Sam Borowski, who graduated last year from St. Mary's and played with you girls, what's that like coaching, or Sam coaching you now as opposed to playing?
I think it's pretty awesome. The girls are adjusting really well to it. It's nice that we have already been teammates with one another, so it helps us adjust a little bit less.
Yeah. So, can you talk about the team chemistry? You said that you guys are really close this year as a unit.
Yeah. So most of us actually live with each other on campus. We hang out all the time. We're basically like one giant family, so that's really awesome too. I think our team chemistry this year is a lot better than previous years.
That's good, and that's translating to success on the field.
Yeah, I think so.
How far do you think you guys can go? What's your goal this year?
Our goal is to become MIAC champions.